Jammer. Thanks so much for being here, man. You're
Yeah, happy to be here.
kind of the whole reason that this um, movie discussion can even happen because it was you that told us a couple of years ago, like what 18, to actually watch this movie, which was pretty cool.
Wow, so
Yeah, man,
long.
it's been a while, but let's go ahead and run our introduction and get this thing rolling. Welcome to the show. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. More on them in a bit. Yes, welcome guys to the Anime-Versal Reviews podcast. It's a pretty cool episode today. I'm pretty excited to be talking about a movie. You know, we've done quite a few different series. We did the Stone Wars as it was running. We've done the Interstellar 55 long form music video anime from Daft Punk, and we're here to talk about Hosoda's film Summer Wars. Thanks to Mr. Special guest, former editor-in-chief of LRMOnline.com. Make sure you guys check that out every day for all your entertainment news, and opinions. Joseph Jammer Medina, bud. Welcome back, man. How's it going?
It's going good. Had a vacation, got an ulcer, am slowly getting over said ulcer. Don't do it, kids. Don't get an ulcer. That's not fun.
No.
I've never had one.
It's not fun. Don't do it. It's not good. It really takes a lot out of you. And I had to travel on a plane afterwards. It was a nightmare. I was basically rocking back and forth in my seat, looking really suspicious. But yeah, it's not good. You throw up a lot.
That horrible core pain.
Yeah, like awful core pain, like down in your stomach, and it feels like, it's bleeding through your stomach, and it's gonna hit your organs the rest of your organs anytime. And yeah, it is not a good time, and you start fatiguing really quickly. So I'm still getting over that. So yeah, I just ate a regular breakfast for the first time this morning since Wednesday.
Jeez.
And so yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's my luck.
If you ever need to know what was actually going on inside, there's a great episode on Cells at Work Code Black for stomach ulcer.
Do they really? They talk about
Yes.
stomach ulcers in that. Okay, I have to check that out.
Yeah, Code Black had the stomach ulcer episode, I believe, and talks about like how it could bleed in and stuff like that. It was really cool. But hey, we also have our regular co-host besides myself. We've got Christine.
Hi.
And of course, Ryan.
Hey.
What's up, bud?
How's it going?
You've been silent.
I know.
Just sitting there.
Now I'm thinking about having an ulcer, and it's
it's a time. There's one more thing I wanted to say about it, but I forgot it. So I'll jump back in case it hits. I felt like it was relevant, but whatever.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a cool mixed bag here. Like I said, Jammer introduced us to Summer Wars, me and Christine, and then I've been trying to get this discussion off with AVR here for a while. Hit subscribe and share with your friends and family. And it finally came around, and I was like, Brian's been part of the show. It'll be great to. I don't think he's seen it. Fucking told Brian, hey, you should check this movie out. Dude buys the Blu-ray, watches it. I have not talked to him at all, Jammer, at all. But so I'm really interested to hear what he said. But I want to go with you first because you're the guest, and you introduced us to this movie. Tell us how did you find it? How'd you come about it, and what was your initial reaction to it? Did it have to grow on you, or was it love at first sight?
Well, I've been a fan of the director since the Digimon movie back in the early 2000s, which is funny. That's a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this is just the Digimon movie again." Well, it's like, well, surprise, it's the same filmmaker.
Yeah,
so it's basically
Hosoda or
yeah,
Hosoda. I always try to add an extra A in there. Anyways, go ahead.
And anyway, so I've been a fan of his since then. He also directed a One Piece movie, Baron Matsuri and the Secret Island, and it's probably one of the strongest One Piece movies out there. It's visually, it has his trademark sort of very simplistic character model style with sort of a flat look, but very dynamic sort of filmmaking style, and a really good, just a really good story. It's considered one of the strongest ones. So I was a fan of him there, and then I believe he also did some episodes of Samurai Champloo. But then also he did The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which was a movie that was released in the US by Sony, if I'm not mistaken. And when I got that when that came out, and I thought that was just really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I had my eye on him for a while. And when I knew his next movie was going to be Summer Wars, I was like, that sounds like a fun name. And the first image I saw, which I think had Natsuki with like the flag standing in front and then the whole family in the background, it just looked interesting. Didn't know what it was about. And yeah, so I mean, it was on my radar for a very long time. And then I watched it, and to me, it just felt very. A lot of times people look at anime and they're like, oh, this is just so weird. And I don't understand it because it's so different. There are some cultural elements of that in this still, perhaps, but I feel like when it comes to its overall style and structure, it felt the closest thing to like a Hollywood movie you would get from an anime movie. It was very standard. It had like that sort of three-act structure. It had all of the elements that you could almost expect from a 1990s disaster movie, except undercoated with like a lighter tone and a more of an actual indie core to it, an almost indie feeling core to it. So yeah, this is a movie I thought that was not only really good, but I thought would be a great movie to be adapted for an American film. So I'm not really sharing a lot of thoughts about my impressions. I clearly like the movie. I recommend it to you guys. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it has fantastic pacing just from that intro on with the opening of actually seeing Oz in action and cutting it with like the actual real world elements. It was a really good introduction to the style of what we can expect, and they hit the ground running with introducing the characters, introducing the situation that he's going out to this house, and then said it like, oh, he has to pretend to be the fiance, and then it does a really good job of expanding the idea of the family and who they are. And even though you may not know their names, you have an idea of like, oh, it's this guy, and
I've
this
got an
guy
uncle
who's
or a
this
cousin like that,
right, exactly. Like it's very relatable in many ways. Like we all have sort of family that kind of we put into little buckets in our head that we classify them in our head, and I just think it was very relatable on that level. So overall, great overall story, along with a great core narrative having to do with sort of family and all that. So I just think it's really fun. It's really accessible. Accessible, that's the word I would use. I think it's a very accessible movie, and something that I think could be introduced to people who are not normally fans of anime, more so than a lot of other anime films, and certainly probably Hosoda's most accessible anime film, period, even to date. Though I have not seen Mirai yet, which I need to see. So I might be wrong about that. But up to Through the Boy and the Beast, I would say his most accessible and blockbuster style movie.
Very cool. So Brian, this was your first time watching it ever, man. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I watched it the other night and I loved it. The thing that I enjoyed the most was the family stuff. It was funny because after I'd seen it, I had a conversation with my mom, and we started talking about family that we had lost, people we hadn't seen in years. And it was weird. It really put me in that place of thinking about, growing up and having sort of family gatherings. And, a lot of people have passed. I'm a little older now. And anytime a piece of entertainment can put you in a space where you're thinking about your life, to me, that's impressive. The animation style was gorgeous. I love the details. One thing I love about anime, period, is their detail to food. It's amazing. I mean, it's across the whole spectrum of the genre.
No matter what,
but
from Japan.
yes, this film does that as well. I really enjoyed the characters, all the leads. I think it was. I didn't know what to expect. I'd watched the trailer. I didn't know if
Which trailer?
The trailer.
Yeah, which trailer? Like, was it a Japanese trailer? Was it
English? Talks about it based to the way the trailer came off is that digital world was real and it came into the real world. That's how I felt about it going into it. That's what my assumption was. I enjoy that wasn't the case, that it was literally just sort of a representation of. It reminded me of Hackers, the old Hackers movie. I don't know if you ever remember
I
that.
kind of remember that. Yeah.
But So yeah, I thought it was going to be some kind of almost fantasy type film. And it's funny because the beginning there's some scenes where they're talking about the satellite in space. So I'm thinking, oh, something weird's going to happen, and we're going to pull them into the real world. But that's not at all what happens. It's very much grounded in somewhat reality, in terms of what happens. So I appreciated that. But yeah, all in all, very much enjoyed the film.
Very
And I
cool.
agree with you, Jammer. The pacing, very good pacing, and it does have sort of that Hollywood feel to it.
Christine and I obviously liked it. We've watched it several times, twice this year actually,
Yeah.
already. Once a couple months ago, and then now. Christine, what'd you think when you first saw it?
Um, it definitely reminded me of my family a little bit, but not as high energy. This movie was very energetic. Especially like the family, not just you know. Yeah, y'all said good pacing, but yes, it was like pretty intense at some moments. Of course, it was really exciting. But yeah, like my family's a lot older, so for me, it's having a bunch of elderly um, extended family, but your second and third cousins. Like I guess like I had talked to your sister once and said that I had met a few of my
Yeah, we don't know
third
any of that
cousins.
stuff.
Yeah, and my yeah, your sister was like that. You're like I've never done that, and I've done it on my dad's side too, but especially on my mom's side, really close with family. So it was fun to see, and yeah, just enjoyed it.
So you guys have heard family mentioned a lot, and with these types of films, I like to do more of a discussion than just a straight up review. So I'll kind of just give the overview of the film, and yeah, there's going to be spoilers here, but I mean, when you get down to it, even the story point spoilers dealing with like the satellite or whatever, that's not even the key thing here. Like, we could tell you this entire plot. You can watch this movie and you're gonna get something out of it different than the three of us based on your familial and your societal experience and relationships. So the movie starts out. There's this online Ready Player One style world where it's the internet, everything's connected. People use the avatars that they create to work, to do, wow, that was allowed, to work, to do all sorts of things. And then it the main male character, Kenji, is a math whiz. He solves a math problem and ends up in not directly setting off Oz's downfall, but he does believe himself to be responsible. He's visiting the family of Natsuki. Her grandmother's about to turn 90. She wants him to pretend to be her boyfriend because the grandma's getting older, sick. She said, hey, I want you to meet my really awesome fiance before he dies. She wanted to make grandma happy, not have grandma leave Earth thinking, Natsuki's not, set up for love. We get to meet a lot of different family members that we'll go through, including a very, very famous avatar, King Kazuma, which is Natsuki's cousin. He's like 12, 13. And then they end up through a series of fortunate and unfortunate events, learn about some black sheep in the family, some severed ties, and they play a series of games to try to wrestle back control of Oz from this virus, basically this AI that used the math problem being solved to access it and take down security and utilities and all that. And so that's like the gist of it. And of course, at the end of the film, they save the day through video games and a card game, and a divert a satellite that the AI was going to use to damage a nuclear site, and they end up saving it by having it hit their land. And it's a cool thing, but it's all about the family. This is what it is 100% about. We get this thing with the initial idea of the rental boyfriend girlfriend thing. Hey, let me have you pretend to be a boyfriend or girlfriend
almost a
for.
You
rom-com
that
setup.
you phrase that in the most
No,
awkward way
because
possible.
here's the
It's
here-
just someone she knows from school who she
Right.
asked to help out rental.
Was
It's
she
not
was
like a
gonna pay
service.
him.
she offered to pay him
Yeah.
as a job. That's what I'm
Did
saying.
she
Like,
offer? I guess she
yes.
did. You're right. Okay. That's
and
fair.
and it's
But it's not like a service that's
No.
offered.
well,
Okay.
they do have them in Japan.
I'm just saying that's not in this
not-
movie
Yeah,
though.
no.
exactly. So
Not exactly what's going on.
but that's the type of situation that it is. And when he gets there, it's very clear that they're setting up this big family event. It's for grandma's birthday. Everyone's coming by, all of her kids. A few of them are delayed by jobs and whatnot, which feeds into the story. But I like it because I didn't get this as much. I'm a lot like Kinji, so to speak. My parents worked. All of the three of us, our fathers were all Army, and my extended family was way further away, and my parents didn't use leave time to go visit them very often. We did other things. So getting to see these big dinners and getting to see black sheep that get taken back, people that manage to find their niche in the family, like Kazuma does. He was bullied as a younger kid, so his I think it's his grandfather teaches him kung fu, and he uses that to gain confidence. And that, I would say, is the second theme of this film, is confidence. Confidence in one's self, one's abilities, one's experiences as being valid. And we get all of that through different discussions with these family members. And early on, it's really through the introduction, like Jammer said, of all of the familiar tropes of what you have in your own family. With that big first dinner scene, Jammer, what was it like joining the Ikazawa family, or no, Gino Uchi family? There you go.
I mean, it was a great scene because it really puts you in there with Kenji, where you don't really know who these people are. Like if you ever, we've all had this, where we go to like a dinner where we don't know anybody, and you just kind of just start to mentally place people based on how they're acting. It's kind of like what you had to do in this scene. It's like, oh, this is the loud guy. This is the obnoxious one that no one really likes, but they put up with. And this is, the other person. And then you have like, it's just that they did a really good job of just, I guess, sticking flags in everyone's personality that were realistic without making them feel it felt very grounded. They didn't feel like they were overplayed. They were energetic, as was said earlier, but like it didn't feel cartoonish or over the top to the point where it didn't feel relatable. So that scene was just, I would like to break that down and kind of understand how they accomplished what they did and get us to sort of remember all these characters, at least sort of their flagship personalities, in like a few minutes. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Brian, your introduction to the Gino Uchi family, and kind of after being taken out of Oz and realizing that while it's a key part of the story, that I think this is the scene that hunkers us, especially for what we're about to experience.
Yeah, real quick on the Oz thing, though, it is interesting. We were talking about Hollywood earlier. This film predates Ready Player One, the film.
Yes, it does.
And yet the opening sequence
and the
clearly, book. and the book, okay. The opening sequence, there's no question that Ready Player One was inspired. I'll use that word. It's the same. It's very similar, which is cool.
In what way?
The way in which we're shown Oz, and we're shown I forget the name of their digital realm, where
Oasis.
The Oasis. So it's like, okay, you use your avatars, and then they even break down the fact that you do your taxes, and you actually, not only do you have the entertainment aspect, you live your life and you work in this space. The Oasis does the same thing. Of course, big budget and all the CG and everything, and then you immediately come back to the real world. So it's sort of that opening, I don't know, 3 or so minutes where you get the glimpse of that world and how it works, and it was very, very similar to what Ready Player One. I don't know about the book. I have not read the book, but at least in the film.
Yeah.
But I like the rom-com setup. You know, it was sort of that, hey, I need you to go, and then I need you to pretend, you're my boyfriend. And it was really cool how and Kenji is our POV character. It's like, hey, you're the audience. Introduce, and like you said, Jammer, introducing everyone so quickly and being able to have everyone distinctly in your mind as a character, and already having character traits and knowing how they're all gonna fit together, especially as the film escalates and you get to conflict and thinking, oh, who's gonna side with who and who's gonna have conflict with who. The film does a good job of setting that up very quickly, and it all does start at that dinner scene.
It's very efficient. It's
Yeah.
really impressive. Like, I wonder how many times they had to rewrite that scene and break it down and make it shorter and shorter, making sure it's accomplishing multiple things at once, because it's just so much is done in that scene alone.
And it doesn't feel forced at all. It feels like almost like you can. I know a lot of us have had big introductions and things like that, and it feels realistic,
Yeah, and I have a question for you, Kyle. Did you feel that way when you met my family? Because I slowly met your family over time, being friends with your sister.
Did I feel which way? Overwhelmed or something?
Yeah, like the way Kenji does, where it's like, oh, this is.
Come on, who are you talking to?
Well, I wanted to know, because I know that you are someone that people enjoy talking to. It depends. It depends, because
Thank you.
Sometimes Kyle can be very charming when he wants to be. If he already doesn't like you, then he's not going to put in the effort. That's just the way he is. So I was just wondering, like, with that, here's everybody. Say hi. I was wondering if you felt just a little weird about it, especially since you just mentioned, the way you grew up. You weren't, y'all didn't sit down for a meal the way my family did. So I was just wondering if.
No, it wasn't overwhelming at all. I'm always everything that I do and say. Brian knows this. He went to high school with me. Is with a purpose, and depending on what my motivation is, I can, either be completely genuine or be really good at faking the funk. With your family, it was several people were great to meet. A couple people have said some things in years after meeting them that I wasn't very impressed with, but my biggest thing with this is the idea of joining families and Kenji being welcomed into this family, because that's what family has been for me most of my life, is people like Brian. Brian's my brother for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, and your family was incredibly welcoming, and it was very, very cool, because I'm not like your family at all. And when I was younger, spiked hair and metal chains and all of that.
Listening to Newfound Glory.
Listening to Newfound Glory, along with Rancid and freaking lots of great metal bands.
My dad said it was a phase.
Yeah.
It is not.
Long time ago. He was like,
the spiked hair was a phase.
Yeah, no, I if this does get cut back down, I actually almost cut it the other day and went with a mohawk, actually. I was this close to doing it.
Yeah.
That for me is what I really get out of this. Like Kazuma, for example, okay? Brian and I have talked about our experiences growing up in military communities, that, like, when you're younger, there's a lot of the common divisions amongst the geeks and the popular, but by the time you get to high school, we're all so intermingled from being moved around so much that our biggest divides were rank and things like that. So we have this weird society and familial group in military communities, and even I could reach into this family and find Matt's dad, for example, Brian. You've met Ralph before. He's obviously just like Kazuma's grandfather, the loud gentleman that teaches him kung fu. My dad is a very very quiet type, and it's so cool to get something out of it, even though I didn't necessarily have it the same way that Natsuki does. Does that answer enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
I do think that if, like, because I do relate to Kenji, I would be like that with someone's family. Like, okay, here, meet everybody. I would be, like, very overwhelmed. So, like, he's definitely a character that, you know, I related a lot to, except for the math part.
Well,
I was decent at math, but not that great.
Jammer's the other person here that's married and has had to meet significant other's family. What about you, man? Was that interesting for you? Did you have any moments like this, or?
No, I mean, let me think here. When was the first time I met her family in phases? But her family is also very splintered. She had a, let's see here. She got a family, or she had her parents, and they got divorced after a couple of years, and then she lived in a different state. Her mom remarried. Her mom passed away. Her stepdad remarried, so she has two step parents, and then a stepmom on the other side, and a stepdad, and they're in different parts of the country. So it's like,
Interesting.
I met them in many different phases. So I never really had that one thing, but I do think that there are two things I want to say as far as sort of the big distinction here, as well as in terms of this family. This is like a very specific type of family. It's like an old family / old money type family. And it's just really interesting to me. Like, I mean, I don't have any connection at all with that. Like, I don't know what that's like, but I can imagine it'd be like the equivalent of someone coming from like a history, like a plantation or something, a family of plantation owners, and that sort of being the American equivalent or something. And yeah, I don't have any experience with many people who are like, oh, I know everything about my family for generations. And maybe that's an American thing, because, you know, we're not such a very old country in many ways, at least the current iteration of the country. And it's just really interesting that aspect of it, I just thought was interesting. Not necessarily relatable, but I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah,
and as far as my... Go ahead.
We don't get that here. A lot of times our information gets lost, or like some people, like Kyle's grandpa, for example, it took them forever to find out how old he was because he lied to get in the military. So it's like there's a lot of things you don't know about your own family in America. So it was like having that much history was pretty impressive.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as relatable, I don't think I related to Kenji that much. I think I was more like Kazuma, where I would, whenever I go to family stuff, me and my cousins would retreat to the back room and we would just play video games all day and all night constantly. So that was me. I always had like either my system or whatever, or like a Game Boy or a laptop or whatever, depending on however old I was at the time, through, you know, from infancy through like high school. You know, that's basically what we did, just hung out and play lots of video games. So, you know, when we got introduced to his character, I was like, oh yeah, there's that one, at least that one kid, usually maybe a few of them, where they kind of go off and retreat and do their own introverted activities. So
yeah. So after Kenji meets the family and everything like that, it does kind of, you know, Oz falls apart after he does solve the math issue. It turns out that he fat thumbs the message, so he's not actually responsible for it, but he did do the math, which is cool.
Oh, I thought he got it wrong. I didn't think he fat thumbed it. I thought he just failed as
no,
a
the last letter.
He fat thumbs the last
digit,
letter.
Yeah, he hits Q instead of E.
E, yeah.
Yeah, so he kind of like just, guess he was typing so fast it just, you know, slipped his mind.
But
Loser.
After the events, there's some funny stuff that we get to see with like the uncle or cousin Shota, I think is his name. Was that it? Yeah, Shota. Wait, that's not okay. Anyways, he's a cop, and he's like the youngest of the cousins. He's like closest to Natsuki's age, so he's like very protective of her. You know, he's only a couple years older.
A little creepy.
It is.
Yes.
He was the most anime part of this movie, where I was just like, I could do
Yes.
without the implied incest. That would have been nice.
Well, they also talk about, Wabisuke, who is the illegitimate child of the matriarch of the family. And how do you say her? Sake?
Sakae.
Yeah, Sake. There you go. She basically adopts him. He ends up taking money and going off to America, and it turns out he's actually the guy that develops the AI love machine that takes down Oz, thanks to the U.S. government being stupid with it. Which, I wouldn't doubt there's some stupidity there
That's
in the
never
U.S.
happened
government.
before.
That's never happened.
I love that plot line though. That was funny.
But there's a big thing about this is Wabisuke, because he is a black sheep like Kazuma. We get like 3 versions of the black sheep. The black sheep that adapts, the black sheep that hides, and the black sheep that left the flock. And the one that adapted, Kazuma, the one that's hiding, Natsuki, and the one that left, Wabisuke. And all of them go through some really cool character growth in this movie. He comes back one night. He wanted to be there for the grandma's funeral, and a lot of the family's been kept in the dark or has joined in the 10 years since he left. And so we get to see this idea of redemption and family drama that can go back generations, because like I said, he's an illegitimate child that the great grandmother decides, I'll take him in and raise him as my own. I would like to or did any of you guys, well, Jam already mentioned Cosmo, Christine or Brian, any of these black sheep type characters, did you relate with them? Brian first?
Not necessarily. The Cosmo a little bit. The fact that he was always sort of sitting off on his own, doing his own thing. That yes, especially when I was younger, a lot of times if you needed to find me, I was in a corner by myself somewhere. That was not abnormal. But not so. I agree. Not so much Kenji. Not really, and not at all the uncle character.
Yeah. Christine?
I don't know. I mean, I've always been a shy person, but I was kind of like Raven from Teen Titans Go. Like, my grandparents telling a story, and I'm just kind of like listening at every single word. Like, I want to hear it. And so for me, I was very much involved with the family. That's where we went whenever my dad got leave. We would, go down and visit them. So I was, kind of close, not as close as everyone that was living around that area, but I was pretty close, and I felt very comfortable. It was a place that I could feel comfortable. So no, I don't relate to any of the black sheep.
Okay. Well, before we get into what happens, the catalyst, the death, let's go ahead and get our ad in, because we got to pay the bills.
Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. For all of your cultivation needs, Grow Generation has the right products, service and staff to make your grow successful. Go to www.growgeneration.com, where the pros go to grow.
Love that sexy Scottish accent. I don't know who that is, but he's awesome. So grandma dies. That the night that Wabisuke comes back, she
hang on a second. I don't want her to die yet. I think
okay.
we have to talk about
Yeah.
that great scene where she was making all of those. What I think this movie also does really well is it is about family, but it's also sort of about the merging. Like, even though each generation is very different, they all have something to contribute. And
Right.
just the things that she did, where she got out her like old school Rolodex and was using her rotary phone and making phone calls to try
That's
to
right.
help the
And I've
situation
even
out.
got it written there: community and favors.
Yeah,
she was
community
very
and
connected.
favors. Yeah, and it was just really interesting where it's like, what I think this movie did well is it never invalidated any generation or their contribution, but it just kind of showed we all have something, we all have complementary contributions to make. And I just thought that was a very positive and heartwarming message.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because to set that up, when Oz falls apart and they realize, you know, the connections that Kenji has, and they start putting puzzle pieces together, infrastructure's down, traffic's backed up, and they have family throughout all of these cousins, sons, daughters, spouses, that work in the fire department, health department, utilities department. Like you said, it's an old money, old family in the area. They talk about how they've been there for, you know, a few hundred years, and how many, you know, wars they fought during the Meiji area and stuff like that, and era, and that she gets on that phone and starts using, calling in favors, starts calling people, you know, hey, look, remember when you did this? This is your this was who you were before, and this is what we did for you before, so you owe me, or I owe you. It is a really, really cool scene, and it shows that matriarch or patriarchal figure that some families do have. The Malone side of my family had that with my grandfather, kind of sort of with my dad, but you know, we're running low in ranks of bloodline, with Lucas being the only person that can carry name and blood forward. But that leadership position, and then her delegating to the younger family and giving her kids certain jobs, and then her kids certain jobs. I'm glad you brought that up, Jam. Did you want to expand on it any more before Brian or Christine give their comments on it?
No.
Okay, Christine.
I just liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, it was, you know, there was a time before technology being so big, and sometimes you just have to go back to basics and, you know, reach out. For us, you know, we didn't have that experience of having such deep roots. So, you know, well, my family did, but like, you know, a close family, we didn't. We just moved around a lot, and eventually met up with people where we got stationed again. Like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you in this many years, but yeah, we didn't have such deep roots and have such deep connection ourselves. So it was, you know, it was nice to see, and it was great to have her encourage others to get together, to rally, and try to help out. And so it was awesome.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, not only is she, you know, this great leader, there you know, there's a nice warmth about her, and I love the fact that throughout the film that she's in, even when she learns things about Kenji, she still looks at him as sort of becoming part of the family, and she's really nice to him, and she talks about how she can see somebody and sort of gauge, you know, what kind of person they are, and she sees something good in him. But on the flip of that, you know, that we get a great sequence where she'll take matters into her own hands, and she grabs a weapon, and it's a great scene going after what she perceives as an enemy to the family. And so, you know, yeah, it's a very dynamic character. There's a lot of cool scenes with her, and going into her final moment, that hit hard. Yeah,
with Kenji.
Yeah, because I felt it, and the way they did it, where he went to sleep and he woke up, it is so bizarre because you felt it as an audience. I didn't know that was what was going to happen, because, you know, I had not seen the film, but I knew, and the fact that they were able to get that emotion out of me, and just the way it was animated, and the way he woke up, and the dog, and the lighting and everything, I thought was very, very, very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love her conversation with Kenji before he goes to sleep, and that's what I was gonna bring up next. Is by this time they've figured out, you know, that, hey, Kenji is smart. Yes, he did try to solve the problem, but he's not. There's no malicious intent. He's a victim too, and the truth about Natsuki asking him to, you know, pretend to be, and it even comes out that she based him basically on Wabisuke, who we learned that she did have a crush on, which again, there's no blood relation there, but it's still weird that they, that storyline.
Yeah,
But
You
she
can
was
file
just
that
a girl.
alongside if she's not really 10 years old. She's actually 300 years old. You could just file those right next to each other. And anime tropes I hate.
Yeah. But Brian brings up something really important here before we continue on to like the final fight scenes and the family's rescue, for their community. Animation and sound and Hosoda's movies. When you think about his other contemporary that most people in the West will point to, Shinkai, your name and Weathering with you, and and God, I don't know who the fuck hurt that guy to make 5 centimeters per second, but whatever. That's an amazingly hurtful, beautiful, painful movie. Anyways,
Boring.
It can be, but dear God. Anyways, the lack of music in a lot of scenes, the lack of sound, like all sound, almost dead silent, except for maybe one thing, a bell, an alarm, a click of a clock. Holy, like Jammer said, Hollywood type stuff, indie type stuff. Why are you flipping me off? I can do that too.
I wasn't flipping you off. I was scratching my eye with my middle finger.
Anyways, I got that from these moments, Jammer. Is that like some of the sound and the like Brian pointed out, using that sleep and then wake? Is that some of that indie stuff you were feeling that you were talking about?
Actually, more of the indie stuff was, and I actually didn't verbalize this as much, but as far as I feel like this is Hollywood, but also kind of a mishmash. It's like part indie rom-com / part Hollywood blockbuster, sort of mashed together. And usually in a Hollywood blockbuster, like they might have those elements of like family stuff, but they'll be like underneath. Whereas this one, I feel like it was given equal, maybe even a little more screen time than like the big stuff. So it was well more matched. So I feel like on that front, that's where it was more. But I mean, definitely you guys are right in terms of the use of sound is really effective. When he wakes up and like you said, you hear the dog barking and I think the sounds of the bugs and all that is just, there's this sense of dread that came with it. And I can't pinpoint what exactly it was, but yeah, I mean, whenever there's like a dog barking frantically and then people like sort of hushedly talking or something along those lines, like something's not good. Like a dog is just like what's going on? Like I want to know things. I could sense the energy, and I'm just letting out my pent up anxiety through bark. So I think that felt very, very grounded and very real. And it's something that I've always adored about anime is their ability to use those very subtle filmmaking techniques to get a point across.
Yeah. Anyone else want to mention music or sound or anything like that?
I would. It would feel kind of weird to have a lot of music in this because it's like a real. It feels more real. So
in the scene or the movie,
the whole in the whole movie, like having a bunch of it, but not just a specific scene. But it's I know like with my family, we didn't just have music in the background, so it would kind of take you out. So you feel like you're in the room and you're experiencing it. What?
Continue.
Okay.
It's raining.
Okay. It just feels like something that you would experience yourself. So to have, a bunch of mood music would be odd.
I will say there was like a bunch of, I feel like, great music though in this movie.
When it's there, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not
like
where it is, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
the music that comes to mind, there are like I think 5 or 6 songs that come to mind. You have the opening song that felt like you're entering a theme park. You have the first fight with Love Machine, where I can imagine it in my head, but I'm not going to try to sing it. There's no point in that. There's the scene where the grandma is calling everybody. Then there's the montage leading up to the final battle, and then there was the final Koi match or Hanafuda match.
Hanafuda.
Yeah.
Yeah. the music that's there is definitely great. My only point in comparing him to Shinkai was like especially his last two films with working with the Radwimps band. Those are very music
I
heavy.
think that's an
throughout.
apt comparison. Like, I think comparing those two, like, they're not that similar, but they have enough similarities to where I could see it, and they're more contemporaries than like everyone going, "Oh yeah, Miyazaki." Like, you have no idea how many times
Both of them are
Hosoda has
the
compared to
next
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki,
Yeah,
yeah.
both of them are the next Miyazaki. Like, no, they're both the current versions of, like, they're contemporaries of each other. They're like Spielberg and Lucas, except that's a terrible comparison because they did very different kind of movies. But you know what I mean,
right? And it does show how you can equally use, because we watched Weathering with You last night. Actually, I wanted something not work related just to decompress, and seeing it again, actually, it moved up a whole point for me.
Wow.
But it shows how you can use music really well in a Shinkai Radwimps, style, and then use silence beautifully in anime. And I like how Christine talked about real life, because in America we find it odd. Most of our movies in the West are loud. They've got background music. We think of composers like Williams, and we think of dude from Avengers and Back to the Future. His name,
Alan Silvestri.
Silvestri, thank you. We've got Hans Zimmer, and we can name all these composers and things like that. But silence is sometimes one of the best things, and background noise. No music,
I will say,
and background noise can be so great.
I'm not sure this is much the trend now, but I know back as recently as maybe 5 years ago, all the way down to maybe the early 2000s, maybe even a little before that, there was this trend where it's like you'd have music building up to an action moment, and then the action set piece would just be like sound effects. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like music in action scenes. And I think it's one of the other reasons why I really was taken to anime was like music and action scenes and actually like almost like music video type stuff. And I don't know where that came from, where I decided to come up with that. But yeah, that just reminded me of that little thing.
That's right, because it's a great transition. Let's talk about the big action scenes there. Brian, did you have any last words on sound?
Just the last thought is the CPR will hit hard. I've been involved in a scenario similar to that, and that was pretty accurate in terms of how those things play out and the mood and the sounds and everything. So yeah, talking about sound design, that scene was very real.
Yeah. CPR is not like it is on American TVs. Anyway,
it's not like The Office where he was trying to give it to the cadaver and then he's cut off its skin, put it on his face.
No. But anywho, the action sequences, okay, they're mostly set in Oz. We get a few fight things in the real world, but we get a couple fights with King Kazuma, Kazuma's avatar, the rabbit wearing the red jacket, fighting off against the love machine AI. We get the big final showdown is Natsuki coming with her ability, showing her connection to Junie. I mess up the family through the card game that Grandma was really good at.
Is that a real game? Because I was wanting to look it up.
Yes, I believe so.
It is.
Okay.
I've never played it. I don't understand it. I like koi fish, but that's about it.
That's a good thing about this is that you don't have to learn it in order to understand it or to be invested in it.
Exactly. You get the point. It's like a combination of like a mahjong meets like a hearts or crazy eights or spades type game, where you're matching things, looking for sets, and it's based on cards, and so you get enough, and these are the points where they're using good music. There's a lot of really decent, and I say decent in a good way, not like mediocre, like good anime CGI here, like proper usage of anime CGI, which we all know can really...
It's well integrated.
Exactly. And it feels like it belongs. And the animation is something that is so unique here because, like you said, we've got these really simplified human character models with these beautifully crafted backgrounds. I love the family's land and the house and the detail for the traditional housing style, and that stark contrast with the clean cut lines of Oz and everything in there. Bravo to the animation team and their good use of CGI, because I know it can be really bad in anime sometimes. Christine,
I'm still convinced that Nintendo ripped off Miiverse from Oz.
I could see
It
that.
looks very similar.
I could see that. Christine, animation style and watching movies like this with a bigger budget versus like a series or an OVA, and the CGI. How'd you take that all in?
I enjoyed it. I mean,
You don't break stuff down like
I
that.
don't. Yeah.
Brian, you break it down.
There you
for us.
go.
Well, I think one of the cool things about the entire ending,
I love
all
you.
the sequences and the action, was the fact that Kenji was not the end all be all savior of the
Yeah.
day. It was multiple characters had their moments to shine. They worked together, and the family included.
Mhm.
And then by the end, the world. And so
Mhm.
I love the fact that those who saved the day, it was basically everyone. Everyone had a contribution. And the way that everyone got those moments to shine, and like you said, the card game was very intense and action packed. And then you get the ending where the password keeps being changed, and then multiple people had to help out in that scene. So I really appreciated that we had it, like the whole sense of community and family. What there is not a savior. It was everyone had to work together in order to save the day, and so that I really liked.
Mm-hmm. That last, to do the card fight, you're looking at King Kazuma, to come save the day. You're looking at Kenji to come save the day. But we get some really cool meta references to old anime, some tropes. We get a magical girl transformation for Natsuki inside of Oz. It's this, I feel, has a lot of love letters, not only to the director's own personal past work, but things that he grew up watching, probably things he enjoyed reading, or what have you. There's just so many things in there, and there's even a lot of real attention, and I mean it makes sense, but things that I pick up on as an outsider. Things that I've learned about, like Japanese customs, for example, the pouring of drinks, how you don't pour your own drink. You're always going to grab a bottle and pour somebody else's drink, and somebody else is going to pour your drink. That's in here, just little things like that even. And like I said, it's, you would expect it because it's about a Japanese family, but attention to detail like that doesn't always happen in Western films. And it was kind of cool to see something like that, something that small.
I think you see more of those details
Mm-hmm.
in current movies in America, current animated movies nowadays, but I'm not sure you did 15 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could give you that. I could, yeah. Well, you think about 15, 20 years ago, and you look at the types of stories that are actually being told, as far as what anime is reaching the West Coast, and all you're looking at is, your Akiras and your Ghost in the Shell. It takes a while. It does, man. I mean, yeah, Ghibli, he's always, had a semi foot in the West, but it really was like this 2003, 4, 5 era before, like, the wider range of movies, I think, started coming to the West. I do want to kind of want to wrap it up as far as the stories thing here with the whole idea of the reunions and the expectations and forgiveness, and it all culminates with Wabisuke coming back to help hack the Love Machine AI while it's distracted by the card game. The supercomputer that one of the grandma's sons, has at his store that's for a university. Like Brian said, they bring everyone together. Everyone gets a chance to make up for their mistakes, whether it's Natsuki's lies, Kenji's complicity, or you guys know the word I'm trying to say, with her scheme, Wabisuke getting to make up for helping create the AI, but he's not responsible what the U.S. did with it.
Men gathering around too, like where they say, yeah, the men have become complacent.
Yeah.
And so like it's all the males trying to fight all of this off, and the women are trying to do funeral preparation
and organizing, and
yeah.
The oldest daughter, she does kind of pick up. There's a scene where everyone's just trying to like deal with the loss and the shit going on with Oz, and the threat from the satellite that's going to fall on either a nuclear reactor or their land, and at the end of the movie. And it's that pick up the flag and carry on, pick up the banner and carry on. The life goes on, the mission goes on, so long as somebody's breathing and the sun is shining, it has to continue. And you kind of get that scene where, again, almost like grandma going through with all the favors, but this time it's about prepping for grandma's funeral. We get the day saved. The card game's cool, animation's beautiful. The family holds the birthday celebration after the funeral for grandma, and Kenji gets a kiss on the cheek from Natsuki. They do admit to liking each other, and cut to credits. Great freaking movie. Amazingly tight story. Pacing, feels great. Like everything you guys have all said. Give me some thoughts on one particular thing I wanted to bring up after this, and that's love in Japan, because this goes through a lot of different types of love: familial, friendship, yourself, and then
community,
and then romantic. And this is something that I've wondered a lot, because if you look into Japanese society and historical traditions for marriage and love, it's like the rest of the world used to be, where it's very much about money and connections and trying to build stable futures and things like that. They some cultures in the world still but are different in the West, where there's more focus on romance. But in anime a lot, and in this one again a lot, especially with Natsuki and Kenji, I'm wondering if this is just commentary on like trying to look at pushing a more romanticized love in Japan for the romance side. Is this Hosoda's own opinion? Like, it's just interesting to see so much Western style romanticism in anime. Anyone got a comment on that?
They had a little bit where like when they did find out that he wasn't who Natsuki said he was, and that was important to them.
Yeah.
So and then it's like
to the older
family.
Yeah,
the family. One of the I don't know if she's like an aunt or second cousin or something. She had already done her research, and she's so disappointed that he's not successful, and that he's a year younger even, and so he hasn't become accomplished yet. And then in the end, I think part of why they changed their mind is he fights just like they did with their ancestors. So I'm thinking, like, I don't think it's more like the romantic side of thing. It's just more like, you're worthy to be in the family. You two come together now. I think that's how I felt about it, at least.
I like that. Jammer, you've actually had a foot in the anime industry and are a long time fan, like all of us. What do you think, man? Looking at romantic love in anime film series versus reality, what do you see?
Well, this is a difficult question, because I do have a lot of familiarity with romance and anime, but not as much in Japan. I don't really know. It's kind of like what's it called? LGBTQ stuff in anime. It's very prevalent, but not so much, from what I understand, in actual society. It's just artists telling stories about things, whether or not they reflect reality is another thing.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. Like romantic love in other anime, it's all over the place. Of course, you have those other obligation stuff as well that tend to come into it as well. But I don't know. I don't think I'm informed enough about actual things in Japan and how love is there in order to fully compare one
Yeah.
way or the other what it could be.
And Christine brought up a great point about the older family, and I think that might even be some of it, maybe a generational commentary, like seeing things even changing. Brian, any comments on romantic love in this film and anime?
Not so much. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't. It wasn't the central focus
Yeah.
of the film by any means. And we got the typical bloody nose thing in the
Yeah.
end. So I was like, all right, okay.
And that,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
I know, but I'm not super fond of that particular thing being in anime, but it's there, it's fine. It wasn't too much. But to me, that was the typical, like, oh, he's still shy and he doesn't know how to deal with a girl. But no, I thought it was fine as far as their relationship.
Yeah. I like how it's just it's that bookend. It's like, hey, remember he does like her, and this whole event happened, and it didn't change the fact that he liked her, and that their growth and stuff happened during this movie. And like I said, it's really great to see a balanced story giving so many characters an arc and growth, and not getting confused, not feeling like anyone was really left out. This is just a really good tight story. I think that's the best way to put it. Jammer, final thoughts on Summer Wars, man?
I haven't seen Mirai yet, and obviously we have his new movie coming out.
Bell, yep.
Bell, yeah.
Yep.
But I think this is far and away his strongest movie. Well, his best rounded movie. I think The Girl Who Leapt Through Time has its strong points. Its emotional strong points, I think, are better. But I think as a whole, like, that movie kind of fell off at the very, very end for me a bit. I didn't fully grasp the ending, and not in that it was just I didn't like it. The ending specifically. I'm trying to think of his other movies as well. I just think this is his most successful, best movie to date. I didn't like Boy and the Beast or Wolf Children that much, and I'm really hoping.
Punch now.
I love Boy and the Beast.
Ooh, nah, boring. Anyway, I don't know. I just think this is his best movie to date, and based on not having seen Mirai, which I still need to see, and I really hope that his next one is able to match it, because I'm ready for another Mamoru Hosoda movie to get me excited about him again.
Yeah, definitely. Brian.
Yeah, what Jammer had said up front about this was a very accessible anime, and I'm always looking for that, because I want to, hey, check out this, check out that. And sometimes you'll watch an anime and you're just like, yeah, I don't know how to pitch this to somebody or sell it. And this is something where I easily could. My mom's a fan of, Spirited Away. Is like, she loves that film. And this is a movie I think I could show her and she'd be into that. And but yeah, very accessible. And almost I'm trying to think, like, yeah, just a good, like, family film. This is something I could see sitting down with a family and enjoying it. So yeah, quite good. Boy and the Beast is a very entertaining film, by the way.
I happen to agree. Christine, your final thoughts on the film?
One thing that I did want to add was how the people around, like, they had like a shot far off, and you see people walk to the house,
for the
like a lot of
birthday
them
funeral thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So they've come together. So it's the grandmother is someone who is very important. They wanted, like they said sometime in the movie, that oh, we'll just have the funeral be something small, but it's not. She had such an impact on her community that everyone wanted to pay their respects. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Well, I pretty much gave my thoughts on it and loved it. And the only thing left to do to make it an official review is to grade the damn thing. So if an A+ is a 10 and a B+ is an 8.5, I'm guessing this movie's or we'll say a B is an 8. So between an 8 for B and a 10 for A+, that gives you guys an idea.
Wait, are you going for letters or numbers?
We're going for letters. I just want to prepare your mind so you understand when I give the grade that I
Hang on a second. Hold on a second.
It is what it is.
Hold on. So you're using a letter grade.
Yes.
So you're saying that 8 is a B, 7 is a C, 6 is a D, 5 is an F. So you're just not going to use 1 through 5. Why bother through 5 through 10 if you're not going to use 1 through 5? Just do 1 through 5
Here's
then.
an idea. Give your number and then he'll figure it out in his weird way.
We are doing the LRMOnline.com every day. Grading system, which is A+ through F. I had
don't equate it to numbers then.
I had to give
don't
you
throw
an
out numbers then.
I had to give you
don't
an
throw
idea.
out numbers. No, don't throw out numbers. Use a letter grade.
Go ahead, Jammer. What is this movie to you on a
No, I want to hear what you have to say first. No. I want to hear you to say.
I give it a B+.
Well, that's fine.
Okay,
that's a solid grade.
I figured you would hate me for it. So
but
it's a B plus for me. I really.
Here's the thing. This movie really struck with me, but at the same time, like I could also see it as I have a hard time understanding anyone hating it, but I could totally understand not everyone loving it because it's very safe. It feels very safe. It doesn't feel like it's taking a lot of risks.
Great.
But that's the thing. It's like it's like a Marvel movie, in terms of it's good. It's solid. There's nothing really too bad or objectionable about it. But at the same time, I could see someone being like, yeah, but there's like nothing new. It's not really taking any risks. I get that. So it's like B+, Bs. I get it. Even C's for some people, but I just can't understand anyone hating it.
Yeah. So what do you give it? What is it for you, man?
I think I'd give it an A-.
A-? That works.
Yeah.
Christine?
I was going to say the same, A-.
Brian?
Probably, I'll say B+. I need to see it a couple more times.
It might grow.
Yeah, because I really think this is something that you definitely could be an A- for me, but as it stands, I'll say B+.
Yeah. I did mention Weathering with You, watching it. It actually did go up a whole point with me. Getting to see it a second time, or third time, sorry. Yeah, it was really, really fun. Belle is the next film coming out from Hosoda. You guys can catch that trailers online. There's 3 different ones, including one with English subtitles. That's definitely going to be music heavy. We're looking at a combination of like Summer Wars, Ready Player One online world, Digimon online world, mixed with Beauty and the Beast. And I'm very, very interested in it. The animation for it looks stunning. The CGI again looks really well integrated, and some of the music sounds phenomenal. And I'm ready for the soundtrack. And I need Studio Chizu, sorry, to write me back. So yeah, do that. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for listening, and Jammer, thank you so much for joining us and introducing this movie to us. And yeah, man, why don't you start off by plugging stuff like the other podcasts that you're usually on here on the LRM podcast channel?
Yeah, if you want to hear me mostly every week, I've been gone the past 2 weeks, but mostly every other week, you check out Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast. And then if you want to check out any of my books, you can check out the name AJ Cerna on Amazon and Audible. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Brian runs a YouTube channel with a lot of really cool stuff. Brian, tell us about it.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. The channel's PulpMythos, currently reviewing Why Women Kill Season 2, and I'll be doing the Fear Street trilogy in July.
Very cool. You guys know what to do for LRM. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel, checking out the website every day for all of the great news and opinions that come out. Christine does write for the for the site, bringing lots of unique takes on things. It's great to have her voice on the page.
Thank you.
And I do the Marvel show on Thursdays right now. It's going to continue that because Disney Plus is changing their reschedule for things. I figured they would. I'm just kind of upset that they're doing all things on Wednesday like they did all things on, well, almost all. But anyways, we also have next week's Anime-Versals will be returning to the midnight run, and Christine and I will be talking about Domestic Girlfriend. Yay! Time to get spicy.
I'll be listening.
Yeah. And then after that, we're going to be looking for input from you guys. New summer season. You got the fall season coming up. If there's a show that you guys would like to see us go through, recommend something that you haven't seen us talk about, please put that in the comments or send your ideas to @thatKyleMalone on Twitter. And other than that, guys, we really appreciate you listening, and check out Summer Wars. It's a great film, very accessible. Thanks, guys.
Speaking of accessible, how easy is it to find?
How Brian got Blu-ray. Brian, tell us about your purchasing experience.
It was like $20 Blu-ray on Amazon. I got it in a couple days.
Okay.
As far as digital, not as easy.
I don't think you can find it anywhere. Yeah,
No.
It's hard.
Funimation has a lockdown on things, and I don't even know if they have the rights to put that on Funimation on their site.
And also, I'll say, like, Weathering with You was on HBO Max, but they didn't have subtitles. They only had the dub. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.